for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part. These words are part of the traditional wedding vows that probably many of you have actually spoken. It speaks of the commitment to care for one another through the thick and the thin, through the good times and the bad. But who really imagines how hard the hard times will be when tying the knot? When we first start out on life's adventure, most of us are fortunate enough to live in circumstances that nurture our hopes and our dreams. So when we find that perfect mate, we are ready to envision a bright future together. But as those traditional vows indicate, and as our own life experience can testify to, life is not all a bed of roses. Sooner or later, each of us will face obstacles, crises, and hardship. Let's face it, life is hard. Today, I want to talk about those tough times. Hi there, my name is Ann Hogle. Welcome to this channel of weekly reflections about what it means to be spiritual beings having a physical experience, wherein I usually relate a Bible reading to what's happening in the world today. So let us begin. Take the year 2020, for example. 1 year ago, who among us would have forecast the situation in which we find ourselves today? Many of us have lost our jobs, our freedom of movement, our economic stability, our ability to hug and to sing together and to see our family and friends, to play team sports and to worship in our churches. At every turn, we are having to figure out what the new rules of the day are, and through it all, we are yearning to get back to where we were. In the year 2020, we can safely say that life is hard for all of humanity. Meanwhile, the more expected challenges and current crises of modern life have not been put on hold. Environmental degradation continues as major contributors to pollution push for expansion. Special interest groups and lobbyists hinder government's ability to make bold moves to get us into a more sustainable holding pattern. Protests and claims for justice and equity are rising up from populations with long-standing grievances. Our First Nations people, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ populations, the Me Too movement, and the working poor who need more than one job just to make ends meet. When we survey our nation and the world, we see the multitude of crises we are facing. Life is hard. On a personal level, loved ones die, and we are not ready. We face illness, pain, hardship, persecution, divorce, abuse, despair. Life is hard. And as the years have passed, we can look back on those youthful hopes and dreams we once had and wonder, with all of the hardship we have known, has it been worth it? What is the purpose of all this suffering? Has some good come from our broken dreams and times of trial? To this question, the Apostle Paul in the book of Romans would say most definitely yes. And I quote, all things work together for good for those who love God. Well, let's analyze this statement. Firstly, since God is such a loaded word, so often misused and abused, let us experiment with a few alternatives. Perhaps creator or source of life, or maybe just plain life. All things work together for good for those who love life, with a capital L. And what is the profile of a lover of life? Here is what I would say. A lover of life is someone who cooperates with life, who seeks to live generously and in service to others, someone who lives wholeheartedly and honestly, someone who holds on to hope in dire circumstances, and someone who trusts in the goodness of life, someone who rejects cynicism and the temptations of greed and selfishness, revenge, and fear. A lover of life makes a commitment and a spiritual practice to love and cherish life, both their own and that of others, for better and for worse, for richer and for poorer, in sickness and in health, until the day that death comes upon us. Jesus of Nazareth was such a lover of life. And in his risen form, he has become our model, the firstborn of a new human family, as Paul was like to say. And because as Christians we have said that Jesus is for us the pattern and the example of the creator of all life, we can also say that this creator has made a commitment as well to love and cherish us, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until the very end of our days. And that is why Paul tells us that when life is hard, when the light of hope in our hearts is just a small puff away from being extinguished, when prayer is the farthest thing from our minds, and personal sorrows overtake and threaten to drown us, the Spirit of life helps us in our weakness. When words elude us, when doubts overtake us, the Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words and carries the burdens we can no longer bear. All things work together for good for those who love life. When life is hard, when we are brought to our knees in the midst of our trials, and yet somehow we allow for the dim hope that the Spirit of life helps us, intercedes with us, with sighs too deep for words, and actually carries us as we stumble. What miraculously seems to happen is that our faith in life itself is strengthened. We are, at least for a short time, cured of the false belief that it's all up to us, that we are somehow independent agents in this world, makers of our own destiny, and beholden to no one. We develop a greater respect for the manner in which we were meant to cooperate with every other living part of this world. All things work together for good for those who love life. Paul assures us that as we hold on to this conviction, no amount of hardship and distress, persecution or famine or even death itself can separate us from the love of our Creator. We are beloved from the day of our birth until the day we die, and even beyond. And nothing we do or that is done to us, either in this world or the next, can separate us from this love. May the blessings of life itself be showered upon you all this day. Amen. Thank you for listening to today's message. If you are interested in supporting this ministry or in becoming a part of any of the acts of service of our church is involved in, or in attending one of our Zoom church services, you can contact us via the website which is listed below this video. We are currently focusing on helping our seniors navigate the technology so that they can maintain contact with their loved ones. So until we meet again, blessings on the journey.